Looking for some players to stash? We'll tell you right now on Fantasy Football Today in 5. That's the name of the show. Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome, everybody. Adam Azer and Heath Cummings here. We just did Fantasy Football Today, and the names are just so different, I can't really keep track. Heath, players that you should stash on your roster, either you still have a draft or you can pick them up off the waiver wire. Won't pay dividends right now, but you could see paying off later.
Yeah, I think at quarterback, it's definitely Justin Fields and Trey Lance. That's the easiest position. In some leagues, they're available on the waiver wire. They're available in the double-digit rounds of all drafts. At running back, if it's somebody you're looking to draft and stash, I think Michael Carter is probably the best guy that I wouldn't even consider using week 1. If you're looking for guys who are going to be available on the waiver wire, Ramondre Stevenson for New England. And also, no one's drafting Justin Jackson, and I think all indications are that he's the clear number 2 with Austin Eckler. So we could see a bigger role than expected for him at running back. At wide receiver, both T.Y. Hilton and Rashad Bateman are going to start the year on IR. Both are available in more than half of leagues. Both could be the number 1 wide receiver on their team again when they come back. Well, Bateman, it wouldn't be again. Also, Terrace Marshall and Rondale Moore are under 50% roster rate. There's not a lot of good options at tight end, quite frankly, but maybe Austin Hooper, I think, could get off to a good start. I hesitate to call him a stash because he's also my favorite streamer. It's all kind of the same thing with tight ends.
So, yeah, look, Gerald Everett's available in some leagues. You could look at the New Orleans situation. Maybe someone emerges there, but I don't know. It's hard to say to stash someone. Anthony Ferguson, I know, is a name that comes up.
Hunter Henry, I guess, because he's not getting drafted near as much as Jonnu Smith is right now. And there's a possibility they play week 1 and Hunter Henry is their best tight end.
Sure. Also, do you still feel this way about Trey Lance, that he should be stashed? Because it seems like a much easier path for Justin Fields to get early playing time, significant playing time, not coming in for a series or something, than for Trey Lance.
Yes, but I've always liked Fields more than Lance. But only one team gets to stash Justin Fields in each league. Both of them should be stashed in all leagues.
I'm just wondering with Lance if it's going to take too long where you're just going to have to drop him at some point. But yeah,
I think it's worth a first investment for the first month to find out.
Yeah. Okay, and then I want to talk about schedule philosophy and what to make of matchups, because there's definitely different philosophies. Tough matchup, you see that a lot. He has a great matchup. And Heath, you do definitely focus on matchups, but what is your overall philosophy when you look at a player's schedule?
Early in the year, the way I incorporate matchups into my rankings is basically how many implied points does Vegas have them for, because that does incorporate matchups. Teams playing good defenses have lower implied point totals. I think that generally, as a rule, 3 to 5 defenses will matter in both directions. There'll be 3 to 5 that turn out to be really good matchups, 3 to 5 that turned out to be really bad matchups per position. Some are the same for all positions. The Rams are probably going to be a bad matchup for everybody, unless turns out they're funneling in one direction. But I don't know going into week 1 that we'll have near as good of idea of that as we will in week 3 or week 4. I definitely think it's difficult to project what defenses are going to look like in the second half of the season or for playoff schedules, just because that's so far away.
So one name that we brought up on the full-length show was Mike Davis. His first 4 games are against the Eagles, the Bucks, the Giants, and Washington. And I really think that looks like a very tough run schedule on paper. I don't know who the third down back is going to be. I don't know how involved Mike Davis will be in the passing game, but I just don't like that for him. But this is not, so again, it's Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, the Giants, and Washington. This is not as much of a consideration for you.
I like the week 1 situation because he's a favorite with a high over-under. And so I think he's probably going to have that's generally a pretty good setup for running backs. I don't like the Tampa Bay game. I don't really like the Washington game, but he's a borderline number 2 running back who's mostly there because of workload. It's hard for me to find a lot of part-time backs that I would have behind him that I'm going to start over him in those weeks.
All right, more on that discussion on the Fantasy Football Today full-length episode. We will talk to you tomorrow. We're previewing Thursday Night Football, doing some buy or sell, and a lot more. For Heath Cummings, I'm Adam Azer here on Fantasy Football Today.